So I was recently reading a book called How to Raise Bully-Proof Kids by Paul Coffin. And he had an interesting point. He said, in his observations, Christian kids were just bully magnets. And it's because of how they're raised. You know, they're taught things like turning the other cheek and meekness and humility and things like that. And those are all great, except when they're taught out of context of the Bible. So, for example, turning the other cheek. That's great, but that doesn't mean you have to be a punching bag or just sit there and accept abuse, right? Or meekness. Meekness doesn't mean you don't have strength. It just means you have strength under control. Kind of the speak softly but carry a big stick, and using it effectively for God's purposes, but not that you don't have it. So it got me kind of thinking of, again, if we apply that to the adult world of bullying, say at work, how easy it is to make Christians just be quiet about their beliefs at work. Use intimidation tactics such as, your opinions are wrong, or you don't care about people if you don't agree with their lifestyles. And then you've got the messaging from your company saying this is an inclusive work environment, and if you can't deal with that, then you don't need to be with the company, and etc. And just for fun, I did a quick search of top 10 bullying tactics in the adult workplace, and it was amazing how many of those bullying tactics I could relate with as a Christian. Basically being shut up about the Bible or defending anything about God's words and truth, and when people are talking about it, and just hushing up and keeping your job. But I realized too that makes me a big old fat hypocrite, because then my kids come home from school telling stories about, a kid was a bully today. And, I've got all sorts of advice for them of stand up to that bully, be confident, don't let them see that it bothers you, don't be intimidated, stick with your group of friends, they know there's strength in numbers, all sorts of advice for them. But then you go back to work and you be quiet because you don't want to lose your job. So, I can relate to it, and then it makes me think, okay, so what do we do? How do we not be bullied into silence at work as adults or in other environments where we have the opportunity to defend God's truth and choose not to because we're afraid or intimidated? So I think we could employ kind of the same advice that we give our kids. 1, be confident. So if you are confident that you have a mission of spreading God's word and His truth and speaking up in cases where it's being challenged, then that confidence can transfer over at work and have that same effect towards bullying. Of you're there and you're proud of what you're talking about, and you know what you're talking about, and everyone else can just be okay with it, just like you're supposed to be okay with the way they live their lives. So I think confidence is key. Another thing, we've spent a lot of time these past few months talking about how we have a mission, not just something we were asked to do, but something we were assigned to do, of spreading God's word and His truth and His light. And that we needed to accept that comes with consequences. And so that also goes into intimidation doesn't work at work or anywhere else when you have already pre-accepted the consequences that come with living out that mission. I can't even tell you how freeing it was in a way when my husband and I finally pre-accepted that we might lose our jobs when we started speaking out about our Christian faith at work. Luckily it didn't come to that, and we actually had a good experience when we started speaking out. That turned out there were other Christians there that were happy to find that they weren't alone in their beliefs, to not go along with everything society says is right. But yeah, you got to have that. If you pre-accepted that, intimidation just doesn't work. And of course, the strength in numbers. When you start connecting with other Christians who are also living boldly, you'll find that you have a really great support group that enables you on those rough days and those rough patches to join together and give that confidence that you are doing the right thing, you are doing what you're called to do, and when the consequences come, if they do, that you'll make it through and it will be okay. And so one other thing I did want to share, and I'll go ahead and post a link to this because I do think it's really great, was a devotional that my mother has sent me a little while ago. And it's based off of Matthew chapter 10, 37 to 38. Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And whoever does not take up his cross and follow after me is not worthy of me. And this, the devotional goes on to talk about how we are expected to love God, and that includes His laws and His truth above all else, above our families, above our children. And it gives examples of, when people around us get mad at us for not going along with their choices and their lifestyles, then accuse us of not loving them, that we have to remember that we are still expected, even in those situations when we are, bullied into going along with what they want to make them feel better, we are still expected to follow God's laws and God's truth. And that is the true definition of love, is bringing them that truth, because that means you care enough about their souls that you are hoping the truth will resonate and get them back on the right path. And I think this, for me, really was very powerful, because all of a sudden it flipped in my mind anyway, that I'm not the one who needs to feel bad about people's behavior. It reworded it in my mind to start asking people questions of, why is it that you think that your behavior entitles you to tell me to go against the Bible? And what kind of world is it okay for you to tell me that I need to bend the rules of Christ and my beliefs in the Bible to make you feel better about your life choices? And I think when you word it like that a little bit, again, that's another way to get past that idea of being bullied into silence and putting that responsibility on the bullies, so to speak, their shoulders, of having them realize what they expect of you is not in any way okay to expect from anyone to change their core beliefs to make you feel better about your choices. So I hope all this kind of helps put it in perspective as we tackle, month to month, all those things that keep us from being boldly Christian. So go ahead and read that devotional if you get a chance, and look at some of those discussion questions that I'll post, and I hope y'all have a good one. Talk to you next month.